Well, good evening. This is installment 10 of our virtual student admissions program panels. We've done these throughout the month of April for the class of 2024. Can you believe it, guys? There's a class of 2024. It probably makes you feel old and maybe makes you miss Boston College just a little bit more. Normally, we would be welcoming you to campus, being able to shake your hand and direct you around and tell our story firsthand. Obviously, we can't do that. We much prefer that, but we're going to try technology to close the gap and tell you a little bit about some stories of some students that come from where you come from. We pitched tonight as BC in the Midwest. Who are the nicest people at Boston College? I think it's the Midwesterners. You guys would agree, and that's coming from a Bostonian, someone born and raised in Boston, and someone who's covered the Midwest many, many years. So what we're going to do tonight is hear a little bit about stories about students that made the decision to leave the beautiful, serene, talent-laden Midwest to come out to Boston and hear about what their experience is like. As we go through our program tonight, we'll give you the opportunity to ask some questions. And if you have some questions, you can use the Q&A function on Zoom tonight and get those questions to me. I'm going to ask you guys to do some introductions. We usually do introductions by alphabetical order of your first name. So you guys can figure it out, you're BC students. So an introduction will be who you are and where you're from, maybe where you went to high school, since a lot of people might be familiar with where you're from and would want to know what high school you went to. And then what you study and what year you are. And then I'll start to ask you some questions once we've introduced everybody, okay? So, B-Joy, you're first in alphabetical order. Why don't you get us started?
Perfect. Yep. My name is B-Joy. I'm from Glen Ellyn, Illinois, so just outside of Chicago. I went to high school at Glenbard West, and now I'm at BC. I'm a sophomore. I'm studying finance and managing for social impact in the Carroll School of Management with a double major in computer science in the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences.
That's perfect. Perfect introduction. Cameron, you're next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cameron Kopsky. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. For high school, I went to Villa Duchesne and Oak Hill School, which is a Sacred Heart school here in St. Louis. I'm studying communications in the Arts and Science School, as well as minoring in finance through the business school.
Perfect. Perfect. All right, Jen, it's all yours.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jennifer Barker. I'm a senior at Boston College. I'm originally from Minneapolis, Minnesota, where I went to the Blake School up in Minneapolis. I'm studying finance and accounting within the Carroll School of Management, and I have a minor in the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences in history.
Well done. Well done. All right. So the first question I think I'd like to ask would be, tell me if a couple of you can talk about your search. You know, you literally fly over hundreds of colleges to go from home to Boston College. What was your search like? Did you really look for something very different? Was it an East Coast search? Were you all over the place? Or maybe BC was the only one that was really far away? Could maybe a couple of you walk me through what it was like for you to choose Boston College, and what was your choice like?
I can start. I was all over the map. I was looking on West Coast, East Coast, Midwest, everywhere. But ultimately, when I came to look at the East Coast and specifically Boston College, it had kind of like the Midwestern feel of community, which that's what ultimately drew me to Boston College. Everyone's super driven, just like they are in the Midwest, and everyone has the same heart for what they do, which I really loved. So that's ultimately what drove me to BC out of the schools across the country.
And were more of your schools closer to home?
They were all over. So I had a few close to home. So I was looking at like Indiana, all the schools around me too. So had nothing really to do with going anywhere. But definitely the East Coast was on my list for sure.
How about someone else?
Yeah, similarly, I applied to a lot of schools. I stuck to mainly Midwest and the Northeast. I ended up applying to 21 different universities, which is a lot. And I really didn't know what I was looking for. But when I visited Boston College, sort of like what Cameron said, I felt that community aspect. I felt that connection that you would have with your faculty, with the different members of your class and the different members of all classes at BC currently. And that's ultimately what led me to the decision of going to BC over some of the other universities I was looking at.
21?
Yeah.
Oh, BJoy. How about you, Jennifer? Do you have anything to add?
So BJoy froze, so I actually have no idea what he just said. But
well, no, just about your search.
I was choosing between. Yeah, no, I don't know if I'm going to repeat what he said, but I was choosing between a small school here in Minnesota, Carleton College, and Boston College out at BC when it all came down to it. And what I had decided by the end is they were very different colleges. Like Carleton was a liberal arts school, whereas at BC I knew I was going to be in the Carroll School of Management. So when it came down to it, it was really a choice for me between arts and sciences and a bigger, like, more focused school in the East Coast. And when I visited BC during the Admitted Eagle Day, which sadly you guys will not be able to do, I met a bunch of students from my own class that really made me click. Like, I was like, wow, I could see myself being friends with these people. And that's what like really made my decision feel like right to me.
Now, for all of you, the difference might be that you were the only one from your school that might have gone to Boston College. You might have been the only one that came to Boston at all. And that puts a little bit of pressure on you socially when you show up. I mean, maybe if you were from a place where 2 or 3 members of the high school class went to the same, came to Boston College, then you have like built-in network that you know of people that are there. You might have been all alone out there. What was it like for you in the first days, the first weeks that you were there, not knowing anybody? How does BC help you get to know people? What things did you do so you could get to know some people when you got there?
I can go. So I was the only person from my high school that went to BC my year. The only other girl who I knew that was going to BC went to the rival high school, and we had played tennis against each other. So it wasn't like the most friendly relationship that we had had. I just knew of her existence. So when I came to BC, I was super nervous about making friends. But immediately the girl across the hall, like while my mom was still there moving in all my stuff, was like knocked on my door and was just like, hi, my name's Celine. I was in orientation 7, so I'm already all moved in. Like, can I help out? And I feel like that just really represented the community of BC. That first night, you have like a floor meeting with the entirety of your freshman floor. So for me, it was like 30 girls sitting on the ground in the hallway. And we really just like sat there and like talked to each other and bonded over like our basic, just like where we're from and all this other stuff. And that eventually evolved into much deeper friendships. And I was really fortunate too. Like those girls on my floor became some of my best friends. I lived with them all 4 years at BC. And they just became like my rock. So it was like almost like coming home again, even though I didn't know anyone even though I didn't theoretically know anyone that first day, because of the friendliness and the openness of everyone at BC, it felt like I had already made friends 20 minutes into being on campus.
I like that. That's great. How about someone else?
Yeah, I had a super similar experience. I think the freshman week that they have before everyone starts school, so the freshmen get to move in a little bit earlier, and BC plans a ton of activities for you. And I remember on move-in day, we had a big barbecue dinner outside, like on Stokes Lawn, and you just meet so many people, and everyone's so willing to kind of take you in and make you comfortable, and no one even cares really where you're from. Actually, people think it's pretty cool if you're not from the East Coast because it's kind of something different. But I just remember making friends like right off the bat. Everyone's so eager to make new friends and to kind of bring you into the BC family.
So let's talk a little bit about like your transition academically. I know where you all went to school. I know where a lot of our viewers today went to school. The Midwest is known for really good schools. But still, the transition to the demands of academics, balancing, making new friends, and living on your own, and again, not having the safety net of everybody close by that's family and even friends yet as you're getting started. Hey, there's Stephanie. Stephanie, I'm glad you made it. Can you talk a little bit about how you made your transition early on in your process, like academically?
Yeah, I can tackle this one. So I think the biggest difference for me coming from high school to college was the responsibility that of the academics on yourself. In high school, you would get an assignment and then it would be due the next class, or there'd be a test in a week. But in college, the first day of classes, you get the syllabus and then has everything that you need to know for the whole semester. And it's up to you to learn all the material and do all the homework and be ready for all the quizzes without any like reminders or anything from your class or from your professors. And obviously like they're going to teach you throughout the semester, but it's more independent on your end. And I think the thing that helped me through that was just a bunch of different mentorship that I had. I was a part of the emerging leader program freshman year, which is a group for 50 freshmen. They move in early, and then you get 10 sophomore mentors that help you through anything from academics to social life to homesickness or anything. And I really relied on them to get me through that and ask them any questions that I had. So I think mentorship was a big part of my transition academically.
Stephanie, you just joined us. Technically, I think that was my snafu, but I want you to quickly introduce yourself, who you are, where you're from, where you went to high school, what you study at BC.
Sure. So hi, everyone. I apologize for the technical difficulties, but happy to be here now. I am from Lake Forest, Illinois, which is about an hour north of Chicago. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, I went to Lake Forest High School. I'm currently a junior at Boston College. I'm double majoring in economics and English in the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences, and then I have a minor in the Carroll School of Management in accounting.
So the next question I want to ask you guys is kind of a social question. The Midwest is known for Big Ten schools, Greek life, Greek culture on campus, which is kind of the structure that helps a lot of people make their friends. Boston College has no Greek life, but I'm assuming you have made friends. I'm guessing. I'm assuming. Does anything fill the void of not having Greek life? Is it just a very different vibe from your friends who maybe went to the U of I or went to Mizzou or went to, Madison? As you talk to them and their social experience, are there big similarities, big differences in the social scene and social life at our place?
I think one of the main differences between BC and a lot of other schools, and my brother went to BC, so I can attest to this from his experience as well, that unlike other schools, BC gets more fun as the years go on. I think a lot of schools, you tend to burn out socially after freshman year, sophomore year from doing fraternities, and people drop out of the sororities and all of that. But at BC, as years goes on, you only get more involved and fall more in love with the school. I think the clubs are a big part of that. I'm on a dance team and I volunteer for the campus school, which serves students with disabilities ages 3 to 21. And we have our own formals. We do like fundraising parties, fun stuff like that. So those definitely fill the void. And you get more involved and you fall more in love with doing more activities within those clubs as the years go on. So I think that's really unique to BC and super special.
Well, it's pretty special for you, Cameron, because Colin wasn't very popular and didn't have many friends. So that was good that you were able to persevere through what he did before you. How about someone else? How about you, Stephanie?
Yeah, so I would actually agree with what Cameron's saying. I think a lot of my friends that went to a Big Ten school or other schools in the Midwest, I think they felt like they immediately kind of like felt that pressure to either join a sorority or fraternity. And I think at BC, it's a really different process in not having that. I think having those clubs, which is like really where you meet a lot of your friends, a lot of upperclassmen, I think it's a really authentic way to choose kind of who you want to meet and kind of things that you want to get involved in. Those are the people you end up spending a lot of time with, and it's not a forced kind of commitment like a sorority or fraternity might be, that you really get to kind of pick people that kind of have similar interests as you. And there is still kind of that fun aspect outside of those clubs, but it's just not that sorority or fraternity house.
Okay, that's great. Now we should talk about Boston. You all live around really great cities. I'm pretty partial to this one. You probably are still partial to the one you live around, sports-wise or otherwise. But can you guys talk a little bit about what you've thought of Boston so far, or for the time that you were there? Maybe how it compared to the city you live close by to, and how much you use the city, over the years that you've been a student at Boston College.
So I can go. For me, over my 4 years, which is sad, at BC, I think it's a different city than Minneapolis is, at least, just because like the public transportation is a little better. It's more established. It's also slightly warmer, which is very, very nice coming from Minnesota.
Pretty much every
But
city is slightly warmer, Jennifer, than Minneapolis. It's a pretty fair bet.
there are a couple colder ones if you go up to like Alaska or something. But no, I just really appreciated having Boston like basically in your backyard. I knew when I was looking at colleges that I wanted a college campus. So like looking at the colleges in big cities like in NYU, for example, where they say like your campus is the city, I wanted that community feel that I didn't think I would be able to get at a bigger, more city-sized college. But at the same time, as I was looking at colleges, I realized like how much I would appreciate having all of the ability to access a city like Boston or like Minneapolis in your backyard. For me, I especially used it my sophomore year. I took a class called Pulse, which is a philosophy theology class that works with your core. And I actually volunteered in the city for 10 hours a week with that class at elderly homes. And I just got to like play games with a lot of old people. They cheated a lot, but it was still a fun time because it was just a way for me to like see different parts of the city, go to places I wouldn't normally go, and like really experience Boston the way it should be experienced by like walking around, taking the T. And of course, like I went shopping too, but that was separate.
How about someone else in terms of getting to know Boston, using Boston from being from another city?
I think like compared to Chicago, oops, sorry, BJ.
You got it.
Okay. Compared to Chicago, I think Boston, I kind of like to describe it as kind of a smaller Chicago. I think it's more comparable to Chicago than to maybe New York, which is all hustle and bustle. I think Boston has a lot of charm, but it is very easy to get around. I feel fairly safe in the city and like using the T and other resources that Boston as a city has to offer. There's just so many different events that you can go to downtown. As Jennifer was saying earlier, it's great being near the city and not in the city. So it's just a quick 30-minute T ride away, which is fantastic. She mentioned that her service placement's down there, but I know people will go into the city for their clinicals for nursing or for their practicums for the education school. People also have internships down there during the school year or over the summer as well. So that's something that people have definitely utilized for networking opportunities as well.
Bijo, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I was just going to say this, similar things. I think that I didn't really understand or appreciate the city of Boston as much until this year, my sophomore year. And so my favorite activity this year that I found was there's these two really good pastry shops, Mike's Pastry and Modern Pastry. And my friends and I would go into the city and get the same cannolis from each shop and then taste test them in the Commons. So it makes for a fun Saturday event. And that's just like one thing that you can do in the city. But ever since like we started doing stuff like that, I think I've grown to appreciate the city more and taken more advantage of it as well.
One question I get a lot in working with families from the Midwest, and especially for you guys that are a little bit older, as you're starting to get into the job search, as you're starting to network, they worry a little bit about, the East Coast bias, right? Is that will the network you develop professionally or the opportunities that come up to you professionally, will they only be East Coast? Meaning, does Boston College carry much weight outside of Boston or New York or just the East Coast? Is it a nationally known school? So if you guys have looked for jobs, if you guys have looked for internships, if you guys have started your networking to think about the future, have you run into that? Have you been stopped short because people didn't know what Boston College was about? Or have you found the reverse, that people are very intrigued by Boston because it does carry a national name and it has a reputation in the fields that you guys wanted to go into? So if one or two of you have gotten that far with internships or Jennifer with your job search, can you talk a little bit about, that idea of being at an East Coast school, but not being just a regional reputation?
Yeah, sure. I can absolutely start. So as a senior, I have a job all lined up, but I, however, will be going to New York City right after I graduate instead of coming back to the Midwest. But from everyone, I looked into jobs all over the country after my junior year internship. And what I really found is like the BC Alumni Network spans across the US and across the globe. And what's really unique is like BC like alums will drop everything to come help you. So I was emailing with like random people in California and Minnesota and Chicago being like, hi, look, like I just don't know what I want to do with my life. Like, could you just hop on the phone call? And these are people that have graduated 2, 3, 10 years from now, or they had already graduated. And I was like, look, I've never met you. I don't even have anyone, like a friend of a friend of a friend who knows you, but could I please hop on the phone? And they were like instantaneous, like, oh my God, yes, like I'll hop on the phone right now. Like, do you want a recommendation? I'll give you a recommendation for my place of work. And I was like, oh my God, I met you 10 minutes ago. You don't even know if I'm a good student. Like, how could you be doing this? But they just trust that the BC education like gets you that far, and that will help you in whatever job you want to get. So the alumni network is something that does exist all across the country. On top of that, with everything that's happened with coronavirus, I'm a part of the Minnesota BC alumni network, and it's been really cute because we have like a Facebook group, and in the Facebook group, the guy who heads it, he messaged and he was like, look, I understand like some of you are seniors or juniors in here that have maybe lost potential jobs or internships because of coronavirus. Like, please reach out to me and like tell me about your industry personally. And I will try to place you, like find someone who will like take you on for job experience or whatever else. And that type of commitment from the alumni is something that you don't see at a lot of schools, just because like they still have this passion for BC.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. How about anybody else?
Yeah, just going off of that, there's a lot of like alumni opportunities. For instance, they do a job shadow program and they do it all across the country. So you can do it in your hometown where you shadow an alumni. So I actually did it in New York City, but they have them in Chicago, St. Louis, anywhere the alumni are, so all across the United States. So that's a really great opportunity. I got to shadow at NBC Universal, which was super cool. Yeah, so, and then also going off of that as well, they have something called Eagle Exchange now, which is basically a website for alumni and current students, and it's basically LinkedIn, but just for BC. So that's been really helpful in the internship process as well.
Can we talk about like a logistical thing, just about like going home and holidays and maybe family coming out to visit? I mean, you're not exact. I mean, it's a 2.5 hour, 3 hour flight. It's time back and forth. It's not as easy if you lived in Worcester or some other Massachusetts town. So how often do you go home? Did you kind of work it out beforehand? And how often do you get to see your parents?
Yeah, I can take this one. During the span of a semester, so about like 4 or 5 months, I think I would see my parents at the beginning, at the end, and then like once or twice in the middle. I know people that stay like all semester on campus too. So it just really depends on how much you miss home, how much you want to go home. But I think it's extremely easy. If you don't like flying alone, there's definitely someone from the Midwest willing to fly with you, and you'll make those friends in classes and activities and clubs that will just want to fly with you. I know that I had like flights booked for, or I guess not anymore because we're at home, but I had flights booked for coming back to VC with some of my friends. So it's very easy to make those connections as well.
Yeah, I will say also.
Go, Jen.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
I was gonna say, like, my brother goes to a school that's not very close. Like, he has to drive an hour and a half to get to the airport, whereas BC is like perfectly located, like 20, 30 minutes from the airport. It's super easy Uber there and back, or you can take the T. So for me, like, coming home was never like a big burden, especially like looking at how my brother has to go from like his school to the airport, and then he has a layover somewhere else, and then he has to come home. It's like a huge process. Whereas for BC, it's just direct flights out of Boston since it's such a major airport.
How about for people that have to fly, or maybe that really long cross-country drive? Like, any tips about what to pack, what not to pack? Like, what was a big waste of time bringing? What did you realize that you needed? What can you get in Boston and wait on? So for all of the Midwesterners that are going to move out to Boston, any packing advice or anything that you knew as a freshman you either did right or did wrong in terms of bringing things to campus?
What I did was I just bought everything once I got there, and it's all just stayed in Boston since I moved there freshman year. BC has a really good partnership with a moving company who can store your stuff for the whole summer. And even when I was abroad, they kept all my stuff. And then a ton of my friends offered after freshman year to take my stuff too. And I know that that's a huge thing to do at BC. They look out for everyone that's not from the East Coast. So a lot of my friends have taken my stuff, and I just bought it all there and it stayed there, which is super nice.
I actually drove out to BC the first time. So I made that 14-hour car ride with my parents in our Tahoe, all packed up with all of my college dorm room stuff. But so I bought everything at home. I kind of had it all like kind of organized for move in. But since then, I've used, like Cameron said, the piece by piece moving company, and that's been great. So I mean, at the end here, that we were evicted here sadly this semester. They were still great, and they still came to pick up all of our stuff, and they were working hard, and so like that's a great service, and nothing I've had has ever gotten lost, so that's something I was concerned about. That's a great service, so for sure use that.
Have you all made the drive?
Oh God, no.
You guys are
It
lucky.
is 16 hours. I would never.
Unfortunately, I had to drive all my stuff back.
So just now, like a
Just
month
now.
ago.
Yeah.
Okay. So is this something you recommend? Like Stephanie, would you recommend, hey, do it once and live to tell the tale, or never do it again?
You know, I think it's kind of up to you, and I guess like your patience and like how like organized I guess like you want to be. I guess like going in, I just kind of knew that like I had all my stuff and like I packed it and I kind of had it set for like 2 months in advance, because that was kind of nice. If you trust Target, Bed Bath and Beyond, etc., to do like in-store pickup, that's definitely an option. I just didn't do that for whatever reason. But also, I did not know this. One of my freshman friends actually told me this year, but apparently piece by piece you can like ship boxes to them, and then they will deliver them actually in your freshman dorm room as well. So that is an option. I did not know that. That would have been nice to know if that's something that you do want to do. So
Will you be packing the car up in the fall and driving out again, or no?
no, so every fall I just fly back out. So I have my
All right,
suitcases
so
with all
we'll
my
never do that.
clothes.
We'll
Yeah,
never do that again.
no, I don't think so. Once was enough.
So Jennifer, you like your story is you came out to Boston and you ended up getting a job in New York and you're staying. Like, I'd like to know if that was the plan, or if you had a plan. Like, if you're going to leave and drive and go 1,000 miles away from home to college, like, are you acknowledging that this is, I'm going to go wherever the life takes me? Or are you guys thinking about, I can't wait to get back home to Glen Ellen, Illinois, or St. Louis, Missouri? I mean, is this a temporary stop, or is this something that you're just waiting to see where it's all going to take you? I just want to know, for all the people that are watching, maybe some of the parents thinking that this is just a 4-year interlude and they're going to be back home in the room that you're all talking to me in. Or like with you, Jennifer, if this is just the first stop of many sort of following the dream outside of Minneapolis.
So for me, I know I'm going to end up back in Minnesota eventually. I think there's some sort of Minnesota magnet that brings everyone back home after however many years. It just depends on how long you stay away. My mom's convinced it's because everyone in Minnesota is so nice that they don't know how to live anywhere else. But that's each their own. For me, I knew I was going to be on the East Coast for probably a little bit after college. I was like, okay, if I'm gonna come back to Minnesota to raise my family, send them to the good, amazing Minnesota school systems that are here, like I know that I would want like some time just a little bit away so I could like have that different perspective. So I kind of planned to be somewhere not in Minnesota. I just didn't know where. So the fact that it was New York worked out. Well, now it might not work out because, you know, it's like shut down and stuff, but who knows? My start date's still fine. So in New York in September. But for me, I know eventually, probably in, I don't know, 5-10 years, I'll be back in Minnesota. It's like, I think everyone likes to return to the Midwest.
How about the rest of you, or any of you? Did you have a plan? Is the plan to come home? Is the plan to see where this takes you?
I think I'm definitely more of the see where this takes me kind of mentality. I obviously it'd be really nice to return to Chicago, live at home for a few years, not have to pay rent. But
Is
if
there
I'll,
an invitation for you to do that? I mean,
there is.
there has to be a willingness on the other side.
Oh yes, they really want me to come back. Yes, but I'm just gonna go wherever BC and the network takes me, and not let location hold me back when I'm trying to find a job.
Kind of going off of what BJoy said, I completely agree with that, and kind of not letting that location hold me back. I think Boston and Chicago are two great cities. They're two great options. And I think everyone that kind of comes from somewhere in the Midwest that you're still near like a major city, I think it's really nice having that kind of piece of home that you can always fall back on, but you still have the city of Boston that you have become more comfortable with over the course of your 4 years at BC. So for me personally, my internship has been in Chicago, so I might end up with a full-time position here post BC, but it's still TBD.
TBD.
Yes.
So you've all gone to college so far away from home. Are you a better student? Are you a better roommate? Are you a better, daughter or son? Like, how are you better? How has this paid off? This being more independent, being far away from home, going to a place like BC. Have you been able to stop? Maybe you've had some time to reflect. That's what we do at Jesuit colleges. We reflect on these big moments in life. Have you thought about how this journey has made you better, stronger at anything that you are? I know
I
that's a
definitely,
good question.
I definitely think that it's made me appreciate where I grew up, and the education I had in high school. In 2019, I was home for, I think, a total of like 16 days between my internship and I studied abroad. So especially being home now during quarantine, it's definitely made me appreciate the time I do have at home. And then as a student, you just feel so fortunate that you are able to go to such a great school like Boston College, and meet so many people from all over the world and have so many opportunities like study abroad. So it just kind of makes your world a little bit more accessible, I think, which is nice. And I kind of grew up in like a Midwestern bubble. So popping out of that and getting into BC, and seeing how much more the world has to offer is really great too.
Anybody else?
I mean, I think it definitely made me more independent. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I could text my parents and have them come grab my laundry. Or I know a guy friend of mine goes home. He's from Connecticut, and he goes home every time he needs a new haircut.
Oh.
And I'm like, Tim, this is so unnecessary. But he's like, I only trust one man with my hair. So I think in terms of stuff like that, it's definitely made me more independent. Like, it tells me like, oh, like, this is how you go out and find things. This is how you book flights. This is how you, like, just basic things that, like, it seems like every real adult knows how to do. But as like a high school student transitioning to college, you're like, wow, I've never even thought about the idea that I have to do these things. And now I'm like a real person with actual responsibilities. And I feel like it hits you a little harder because you're further away from home and further away from your parents. But it's definitely like a much needed like action that you, or a like thing you need to go through in order to like fully transition into a real adult.
Now, being from the East Coast, we talked about the city of Boston, but we didn't talk about East Coast people. We have the reputation sometimes of being more intense, but we're only more intense because we're right all the time. But more intense, not as friendly, fast, like quick, and not having time for people. I hope the answer is a good one, but you've met a lot of people from the East Coast, and it's internships, service opportunities, classmates, teachers, staff. I hope you can say good things about people that you've now met on the East Coast.
Absolutely. I think that's kind of a stereotype that for sure is something that's kind of busted within that first few weeks of being at BC. I don't know if it's just like kind of like that BC mentality, or if honestly that stereotype is just false. But I really think that I don't think being from the East Coast kind of makes people like more straightforward or more intense by any means. I've had really great experiences with my friends that are from Boston or New York, etc. So I think maybe that Midwest mentality of being overly nice is something that I for sure get made fun of and picked on for, but I think that's a good thing. So maybe East Coast people don't quite live up to that Midwest expectation of what a nice person is, but I think that for sure East Coast people are still nice.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Yes.
Of course, and the nice people answer that in a very diplomatic, kind way. So thank you very much. As we kind of wrap up here, my last question for you guys is maybe some advice for the people that are joining us and the people that are going to watch this, because it's recorded and people might watch this all through the month. Coming from the Midwest, coming from far from home, not knowing many people at BC, makes your freshman year really important. So maybe you can give some advice in saying, what was the best decision you've made at Boston College, especially being from far away and making it your home? So I'll think about your past and all the little decisions you made. What do you think was the best decision to make Boston College a real home for you and it made it work for you for so long? Why don't we start with you, Cameron?
I think that it's really important to just jump in and say yes to everything right away. Those first 3 weeks are so important, including freshman week, just keeping your door open and keeping an open mind, saying yes to everyone that asks you to get lunch, because people will ask you to get like every meal with them, and not holding back, just joining as many clubs as you're interested in. I just think that's very important because you meet so many people that way. And even if later down your journey at Boston College, you end up not being best friends with those people or even dropping one of the clubs that you're not as interested in, I think that forming those connections and saying yes to a lot will help you feel that much more comfortable at BCE, and will help you make so many more friends than if you're closed off.
Great advice. How about you, Jennifer?
I would say, like, don't be afraid to reach out, whether that's to professors, upperclassmen, or like people just in your life. Like people from my freshman year English class who like I just happened to sit next to on the first day. Like the guy sitting next to me was from Minnesota. The girl in front of me was from Puerto Rico, and like there's some of my closest friends today. So it's just like taking that extra step and just saying like, there's 2,500 people in this grade. They're all probably very nice, or else they wouldn't have gotten in here. Like, let's just see how many friends I can make, especially as a freshman. And then especially not being able to reach out, or not being afraid to reach out to those upperclassmen too, because they're so happy to talk to people and so happy to help like figure out classes, roommate, like any problems that you could be having. They've already been through it and they want to help you because that's just the community of BC. So like going, like you just need to say like, hey, I have a question, and you'll get like 12 people being like, oh my God, you have a question? Can I help you? And like, that's just like the way BC works. So not being afraid to take that initial step and like being the one to reach out is so important.
That's great. Great advice, Jennifer. How about you, B-Joy?
I think just a general, I think both Cameron and Jennifer said this, generally just starting a conversation with someone new or someone that you know. I know I met my roommate this year from just starting a conversation in class and at orientation. So I wouldn't have been with the people that I live with today if I hadn't started that conversation, if I hadn't said hi to that one person. So you never know what one friendship or what one relationship can take and do for you. So just say hi to as many people as you can.
And last, Stephanie.
Yeah, just to reiterate what everyone else has already said, just don't be afraid to dive in right off the bat and really soak in your freshman year experience. Get involved, just say hi to people, go to lunch with people. BC is very much a coffee date, lunch date kind of place. So starting that from the very beginning, I think is a great way to really start, be it with your peers in your hall and different clubs and your classes, your professors, upperclassmen, etc. That's just really the best way to kind of learn BC and kind of learn a lot about yourself in the process as well. So I would say just really soak it all in. It goes by so fast. A senior told me that early in my freshman year, and I didn't believe him, but he's so right. It really does. And I think it's just because we're just so kept on our toes. We're constantly having those great conversations. So I would say start that from freshman year and really make the most of those 4 years.
Well, I mean, all of your advice is like, be really nice and like life at BC will be better for you, which is what I'd expect a bunch of Midwesterners to say about being successful in life. I think you gave some great answers and some great advice to the people that were watching and the people that will watch this later on in the month as they're getting down to making a decision or they're realizing their decision is the right one because of the things that you guys said. These times are uncertain, I know, but I'll tell you, the most normal times I've had is talking about our home and talking about Boston College and talking to you guys. So even though things are a little bit uncertain, this has been a blessing. So thanks to all of you for giving a little bit of time. And again, trying to encourage more Midwesterners and more of the nicest people on campus to come to Boston College. For those of you that are viewing, we have more programs throughout the month of April that you're welcome to join. Later tonight, we'll be talking about Boston College and STEM resources. Tomorrow, we'll be focusing on the Lynch School of Education, and we'll have other programs throughout the month. So for you guys that are viewing us, and for my panelists, stay safe and be well. Miss you guys a lot. Thanks for joining us tonight, and for all of our viewers, thanks for joining us. We'll see you all soon. Take care. Good night, everybody.